Here we go. And we are going live. All right. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land. Thanks for joining us. We're doing a webinar tonight with Virginia from O'Connor Casting. This is Virginia, and this is Steve Bayorgen, too, from Acting. He's a member of our practice group called, ironically, The Practice. And we were playing around with some exercises on MOS auditions. MOS, if you're not familiar with MOS auditions, that means you don't have any lines. It stands, there's all things that people say it stands for. Mit out sound. The Germans were saying everything. It means motion only sync. You're not running the audio track through stuff, but it's commercial auditions basically where you don't have any lines. Doesn't mean you're not talking. Doesn't mean they're not recording the sound. And they can frustrate the heck out of people. So we're talking about those today. And sorry, I'm doing this on my own, so I have to let people in here from the practice, and then I have to whoops, I need to spotlight people. And Virginia needs a spotlight, and Steve needs a spotlight, and that's it. Okay, so welcome, Virginia. Good to see you again. She's been with us many times. How are things going? Just to catch up real quick.
I mean, it's fun. It's super great. We're learning all new things. We're doing new things. We're pivoting and adjusting and staying busy at O'Connor. So
any big adjustments on auditions like this, these MOS auditions that you found in self-tapes versus in person? Because I know you're doing some stuff in person, and sometimes I see a MOS thing go through in person. I'm like, oh, that's smart, because that would be really, really a cluster to have a bunch of actors make up their own blocking.
Yeah. We do. We find that to be true a lot of times, where the ones without copy are harder than the ones with copy. That is most of the time what we find. It's always tricky to give someone a scene and just tell them to do it. So what we found is coming in person is super helpful. Getting that immediate feedback from a casting director as you do your scene solves a lot of problems real fast, and puts you on the right path, the track the director wants you on. It's just a lot faster, a lot quicker, and you don't have to worry. You don't have to figure it all out on your own or any of that stuff. But when you do have to do one at home, hopefully we're giving you enough direction that you know kind of how to do it without going rogue and off to 3 hours of taping when you only need 10 minutes.
I know, absolutely. And Steve, what's your experience recently as an actor dealing with MOS auditions when they've come in on self-tape versus being in the room?
Well, over my career commercially, probably the most stuff I've booked has been MOS. But then for the last month or two, I've been really diving into it. And I think part of the problem is that because it's so simple, we overthink it sometimes, because you really don't have to do anything, but we all think we have to do something to act to catch the casting director's eye or the client or whatever. Then you look back at it and go, I did 19 things, or what was David's thing from some seminar, David said, just take a drink, don't make it 15 moments or something like that. He's absolutely right. And it's really hard to not make it 15 moments, to make it 1 moment or 2 at most.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into playing around with some stuff a little bit here. We've got a commercial that was cast maybe about a year ago that we'll take a look at, and look at some actual acting being applied to this. But I do want to chat with Virginia just a little bit first about MOS auditions in general, not even self-tape, or not even in person. You can talk about either one of them. But how do you go about these as a casting director? Yeah, I'm sure you and I were both like, oh, there's so much to say, because I used to cast at O'Connor as well, before Virginia was there. And it's an experience for a casting person to bring all these oftentimes university trained, really skilled actors, and then watch them just hit the wall with this requirement to do something that is not at all within the scope of what they were expecting their career to be all about. We want to be in movies, and here we're doing, flipping through a phone for commercial for 30
or we're playing with a pretend dog.
Right.
How do you play with a pretend dog at home on your own?
So what kind of challenges do you see when you have to I think people don't really realize that at 9 or 8:30 in the morning, it's your job to make up what people are going to do for this audition.
Mhm.
What are your challenges that you come across with the MOS audition?
Well, yes. First thing that many people think of when they think of MOS is, oh, I don't have any copy. Great. Sweet. I don't have to learn anything. I don't have to do much. But it's trickier, I think, to do these ones without copy. I think they're just harder. Many people think it means you have to be silent, and you don't. We don't want anyone to be silent. I've had people send in tapes where they cut out their sound altogether, and it's just a dead silent, like just a picture. And we'll have people redo those because those aren't fun. Just because there's no scripted dialogue also doesn't mean you can't say some things. We don't want you to fill the whole take with dialogue because that defeats the purpose. We're trying to see what you can do with looks. But if a word or two has to come out or a line pops out, that's okay. That's okay with us. That's how we work. That's how most directors work when they're doing it. They're like, why is it so quiet? or we find people, the other thing we find, I guess, is people, because they know they can't talk, they over exaggerate all their actions. They tend to mime hard, like real hard. And it's not fun to watch you mime hard either. We know what's going on in the scene. You know, everybody's familiar with the script. Everybody who's watching you do this audition is familiar with the script. They all know what's happening around you. So they just need to see you like react to those things or interact with those things without like narrating or describing everything or literally like overdoing it to really push that scene work.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing for actors to remember, that in the audition situation, you have a special audience, and that audience is the directors and the writers and the creatives that know the script. Versus if I'm going to see you on TV, you don't have to give me as much information because I can see the couch and I know that you've got a phone in your hand and I can see the person look at you and go, what? So I know what your reaction is going to mean. Mm-hmm. But in the audition, it's a different level of stuff that we have to put through to the audience because they know what you're going to do. And I do sometimes in class talk about the difference between what I would call sloppy mime and specific mime. And it depends upon what your audience knows. If you're adding some information that we have no idea that you just walked into the garage, like how are you going to let me know that you walked into the garage? There's got to be some extra information that you're delivering. But typically we wrote this stuff, not we, but the people that are watching you, the writers and the directors wrote this stuff. So you don't have to overtell. You really don't have to overtell. And they're a lot of times looking for reality. I used to jokingly, how many times have you been in a MOS audition and there's an actor or two actors together and they have this like feeling that they can't talk. So you'll get them going, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I walked out into the waiting room after being frustrated repeatedly throughout the day. And I said to all the actors, hey, everybody, just so you know, this is going to look like this. So don't do it.
Don't do that. Don't do that part. Skip that part.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right.
But like, if you're asking a question and you have to say the words, you got to say the words, you know, like sometimes MOS can mean looking at people talking. We're just not going to hear what you're saying. So maybe it doesn't fully matter what you're saying. Yeah. But I need to get the vibe of like, oh, those people are having a good time at lunch or whatever the scene is, you know? So. Right.
And it's counterintuitive. And sometimes you're in a group of people and you have to talk so that they can listen. And it's funny. We always think, oh, we're going to watch people that are talking because that's what we do in a lot of other formats, especially in theater. Our attention will go to the audio. But, in this audition, the director is going to watch the people who aren't talking to see how they are for the snippets that we can take of that slice of life. Do you have any overriding advice on how somebody could prepare for an audition like this? Let's say it's an in-person thing. Like, what's your process? Do you bring people into the room and kind of walk them through the things or walk out there and kind of give them direction?
Yeah, I mean, I could be giving group direction in the space in the audition room. I could be telling you things out in the hallway while you're sitting there so that you prepare a little bit more. I might have a direction sheet written out in the hallway so you can have it. those things aside, which you can't really prepare, you got to just kind of walk in and get. So show up early, show up like 10 minutes early, at least 15 minutes might help you to just kind of settle and prepare and see if there's any advice out there that you can adjust or add to your stuff. But I think just like knowing your script really well, even though you might not have lines, you want to know as much as you can about who you are in the script and what your role is in the script. Not like literal role, but like, am I one person out of 20 people and it's a bunch of MOS moments, a montage of moments or something strung together under VO? Or am I like the person driving the scene and it is all about me? So that you know kind of how long a moment could be or how short a moment needs to be. Like, is it an instant read that I need to get from you? Oh, that's a doctor with a patient. Like, is it a look and then they cut to like 16 other things and I never see you again? Or is it someone I'm following throughout the whole day and they have time to kind of work a little scene out and tell a story? So I think knowing that script and how you fit in it and what time is kind of allotted to you in the script is helpful.
When you're in a time crunch, which happens sometimes when you're running a session, and you have to give the direction.
What are you talking about?
I know, right?
Totally plenty of time prepared.
And you have to give direction to people quickly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see some actors do that you love? Like, what would you expect of preparation? If there's 10 of us sitting out there waiting in the waiting room and you give us a snippet of ideas, do you see actors do particular things to prepare before they come in that room? Or is there any sort of approach that actors seem to be taking?
Well, I mean, once I give them the direction, I'm gone. Like, I don't know what they're doing in the waiting room, but to me, listening to what I'm saying, making sure you're hearing what I'm saying, especially if I'm in the room giving you direction, like hearing it before you just agree to it. Because a lot of times I'll give you direction and I'll be like, this is weird or complicated. Hear me out. Do this, try this. This is your blocking. Everything else is kind of up to you to add to it. If I'm giving them kind of new stuff or new information, I'll ask if you guys need a second. Like, do you need a second to apply that to whatever you want to do? I see a lot of people are just like, no, let's do it like right away. And I'm like, you don't want a second to think about that, about how to apply that note or anything. I always feel like people need a second to kind of think about how do I make that show up that direction? Like, if she wants me to be less sarcastic, but also be funny, like, how am I doing that or whatever?
Yeah.
Take a second if you need a second to like think about how you're going to apply the note before you just ram through another take.
Totally. Steve, do you have any process of, oh, you're on mute. Did you mute yourself? You're not allowed to unmute yourself. Don't stop unmuting yourself. Let me see this. Ask to unmute. Buttons to push. It's always
there.
buttons.
We go.
There we go.
I took a drink before and it muted me. I'm sorry. What was the question again, Sean? I'm sorry.
So when you get direction from a casting person, before you go in for an in-person thing, like in the moment, you've got like 5 minutes before you walk in. You're going to do this, and this. Do you have any sort of process of going through that when you're in the waiting room with like 10 other people who might be staring at you?
Depends.
It's a weird thing.
Depends how crazy it is. But long time ago, Krista McAllister booked Boss when it was first here. We were taking class at the green room together. And I said, so what did you do to like book it? What did you do to prepare? And she literally had like 2 lines. She goes, well, I started by reading it 10 different ways. I'm like, oh, really? 10 different ways. So now when I get an audition for anything, it's easy to get locked into something, whether it's MOS or line reading or whatever. So sometimes when I'm practicing, I'll just do it as stupid as I think I can, totally off the directions they're giving, because you might go in and Virginia might say, okay, this is crazy. The director wants everyone to do a German accent or something. You're like, what the? Well, I tried that last night. So
yeah.
Sometimes it's tough to prepare, but I think the more work you do before you actually get to O'Connor or whatever, that helps a lot when they throw the curveballs at you.
What if you get there, you have no context as to what they're going to do? Virginia walks out and she says, I need you guys to do this, then you're going to do this, then this, and this is off on the left-hand side. You're going to do this. And then I want you guys to look at that and have this sort of reaction. Everybody cool? Let me know if you have any questions. I'll bring you guys in a couple seconds. And you're sitting out there with all these people, probably can't like full on practice it out in the waiting room? Do you have any dealios that you do?
No, but I just think through it to like stuff I've done before in the past,
Yeah.
whether it's another audition or something I've booked. And I just try to go back and use history for those things.
Because I've seen people go off into the corner and just kind of face the corner and kind of do it small little feel it. And something that I actually like, especially a lot in the room, is if Virginia's talking to me as an actor, while she's talking, I will just, like, if she says, you're going to pick this up, I'll just look over there and I'll kind of mini block it out with your body as you're listening to the directions, just to get in your body.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that's cool too.
Well, there you go. Darn it, Steve. Get better answer next time. Now, I think so. Virginia said all the stuff, and it has to show up, and that's really one of the most important things, because it's only going to show up if it's something that you wind up doing, and it has to be extremely real in terms of what you're doing, but it's got to be something that you're doing. So finding the way to practice that through. What else? Are there particular kinds of MOS auditions that you find more challenging than others, Virginia, whether it's like a comedy thing or storytelling thing? Oh my gosh, you
no, she's muted.
I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself.
There you go.
And
I didn't know there were
everybody
rules.
else in the practice can unmute themselves.
I had to cough. So I muted myself and then I couldn't undo it.
Right.
Harder. And I'm not going to do it again. Sorry. I just hear me cough. Harder MOS than others. I think the hard ones are if you know the script is funny and you're doing your bit and you're trying to go for comedy. It often just appears like over the top, not right. Many times when a script is funny, I mean, unless we're telling you to go for it, a lot of times the stuff around you is funny and it's situational funny and not like you trying to go and get that comedy by being slapsticky or goofy, or like I said, like there's like one idea is like how do you chase a dog without making it look like, Benny Hill or whatever, like what, sorry, that might be old. Dated reference.
We
there.
get it.
Watching Benny Hill at grandma's house.
Right.
How do you chase a dog convincingly without like falling all over yourself? And like, how would you chase a dog in real life? How would you get the thing from your dog without like turning it into like just bananas stuff? So like, to me, I think the hardest stuff is trying to do comedy MOS. It's like, how do you just let the comedy be the shit you don't see, and just your reaction to it is funny, but you don't know it's funny because it's not there. It's not happening. You're just trying to do your best. Like I said, to picture stuff going on around you.
That's a particularly difficult one because you have somebody running, and if we were self-taping, I imagine you probably get half, or not half, but you probably get some people who are going to be like, I'm going outside and I'm going to run around and I'm going to like full on produce this thing. But if you're doing that in studio, or for most of the other people that are in front of like a backdrop, what does that look like? Somebody just like jogging in place, or is it more about like running a little bit and then doing some expressions?
Yeah.
To kind of the person.
In the room, I'm going to widen out and do a full body shot, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Let you do your stuff, and then I'll zoom in to get the reactions I need to get on your face. And the self tape, it's obviously a lot harder. What I'm probably doing is asking you to do a wide take, a full body, or at least a cowboy, to get like the physical aspect of you and what you're doing, and then I'll probably ask you to cover it in a close up where you're doing less movement and less stuff, but I can see the face and what you're doing with your facial reactions.
And for something like
go ahead.
For something like that, would it just be like take a step or two to the right, step or two to the left? Because
it's probably like just like like you're doing stuff, but keep it contained. I've seen a lot of people where we're like, you need to go wide on this shot so that I can see, the physical stuff you're doing, and then they don't move around or don't use the space. They still just like stand there as if they were in a close up. So like being aware of like your framing and what you can do, and what I mean by a wide shot, not just to see you have feet, it's to see like what you do with that. How do you use your body and use the space and understand what's needed in the script?
For sure.
But I've been in an audition where someone like literally ran to the other side of the room, like, Oh, no, neither of us are on the screen right now. This is great.
Come back on.
Exactly.
Refresh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think I was going to zoom out?
So I got a quick question from somebody here, but I did want to go back and have you explain to people, because I'm sure there's a lot of actors out there that don't know what a cowboy shot is.
Ooh, to get those holsters in, you gotta widen out to like maybe like mid thigh or knee ish. It's just like if you can't get a full wide shot, that's okay. I can be fine with a cowboy because I know what the rest of your legs are doing. It's basically, I think it's a reference to Westerns and getting those holsters in the shot because that's your cool prop, and that means he's a cowboy. And let's see what he does.
Yeah, and somebody said from the hip up, it's a little bit lower from the hip up. It's like mid thigh. It's like down to your guns. If your guns were hanging from your belt.
Mm-hmm.
And just we always have to go over this on webinars. If somebody's got like, if I'm here and I'm like, oh, I don't want to overshoot, I don't want to show you the laundry basket or something like that. Is it okay if we crop stuff in a little bit? Like you don't really care. Or if you don't care.
Also, I don't care what I see. I don't care if you have a backdrop. Like I personally don't care. I know there's probably casting directors that do care what's going on behind you. But I don't care. Like if it's not too distracting, I don't care where your backdrop ends. I don't care if it's in the frame a little bit with the end. I don't care.
Cool. Can we take a look at a specific commercial that was from maybe a year or two ago? I think this was a T-Mobile commercial. It's out on YouTube. I think you can find it, no problem. And it had a few different parts to it. And Steve did some self-tapes to this. And Steve, I think on one of them or two of them, you kind of went a little over the top and too far with it, right? That wasn't an accident. I'm just kidding.
What? Oh, shoot.
Just so we can take a look at that and to let us know kind of what you're seeing or what you were going through when you were casting this. But let me pull up some of the direction on this, and then I'll do some screen sharing. But first off, there was a slate involved. So sometimes in the MOS world, and it's really seeming to be very common in self-tape world. If you were, somebody asked a question, how long does a casting director have for an MOS thing? Like how long is your audition for an MOS role?
That all.
How do you schedule it? 5-10, 5-10 or something like that? Or
oh yeah, it depends. It depends. I've had a lot of MOS lately where they're telling a story, and if it's the lead character, I might have 10 minutes with somebody. I might have as much as 10 minutes, 10 whole minutes. I might have all that.
Wow.
I know.
Too much.
It's not enough time to get through all the stuff the way I want to get through it, but I gotta show people. So
it varies. Okay. But then a lot of times in the in-person stuff, you might not be able to have a longer interview thing if you've got a lot of stuff to do too, but on self-tape, you've got a little bit more latitude to be like, you do this. So I've seen a lot more of these, the interview bits. So this interview was asked to just tell us your name and if you're comfortable driving a truck, and then if you have any children. So I want to take a quick look at Steve's rundown of that.
Steve Bayorchin.
Can you hear
6 feet tall, willing to shave. Do not have a CDL. However, I work for Beacons Moving and Storage back in the day, so I've got no trouble driving big trucks. Cool thing about being a dad now, I get these emails periodically from OneDrive, and my son is going to college next year. My daughter's going to be a junior in high school, but you get these memories randomly emailed too, where the kids are like 3 years old, when they're 6 years old. It's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing to see how much they've grown. And every now and then I get delusional and think, oh, I really wish they were like that again. But diaper changes, throwing up at 3 a.m, being up all night, I don't miss that. Do love the kids a lot though.
Cool. So where are we as far as an interview goes with that? What are you looking for in those things?
First of all, I am looking for, how do they talk? How do they handle themselves? What does it look like when are they comfortable? I've decided in the first 5 seconds, I get it. I know who Steve is, and I will move past that. Did he do the thing? Cool. I don't care. Whatever. And then I'll move past it. Somebody is probably watching it to see, do they have a driver's license? Ooh, okay. After they've seen the look and decided, immediately, is this someone I want to play with? Can I play with this person? Is this the spec I'm looking for? Is this outside the spec, but still cool? Like, So like in the first 5 seconds, someone's decided if they're going to finish watching your take or if they're not, pretty much. I hate to say that, but that's
No, that's
true. They
understandable.
know what they want.
It's an interesting. So for you too, like I know, like in the session room, sometimes when you got you're running behind and you're running behind the camera there, and you're like, wrap it up, come on, because you just know it just gets very frustrating. So too long, too short. Where are we at? Was that a little long?
I mean, I think probably a hair on the long side. If I was gonna go anywhere with it, probably a hair on the long side.
Because self-tapes, like as the casting director, you kind of have to watch that through to make sure that at some point in time, Steve's not really cool, and he's like, and hey, because you can't send that to your client.
I mean, I'm gonna watch most of it, but could you slip some porn in at the end? I wouldn't know. I probably, if you did it all right, I probably wouldn't catch it. My job is to kind of scrub through a little bit, at least to decide like, okay, they did it, and I'm fine with it. You know, like
Fight Club frame by frame it in there a little bit.
Right at the end.
Sean, we don't talk about Fight Club.
Maureen had a good question on the chat. She asked, is it absolutely always the first thing that you watch? When you guys cast a recent project that I was a director on, I watched them last. And I was interesting to watch myself do that, because in casting, I always watch those first.
You watched the slates last?
Oh yeah, because I didn't want to watch them. I didn't want to watch them.
Okay.
I didn't have to. I'd only look at them if I had a question. But that was just me, and that was one individual.
I mean, I don't really watch them at all. I assume if you did it, I'm just like making sure it's up front. I don't really watch them at all.
Comes up front. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You can like triple time them, double time
So
them.
do the clients request them then? Or we want to see them, or how does that work?
We kind of just need to see like who you are and how do you talk to camera, and it may be the only time I get a real close-up of you.
Okay.
So it's good to just establish what they're getting, and again, so they can kind of make that first judgment of like, oh yeah, this is someone I should be watching.
Yeah.
Or this person, I don't know why the casting director sent me this person. They're totally not right for this. Why am I watching this person? Hopefully we're doing our job and sending them people they should be seeing. So
Right.
we don't waste time of anybody, you know.
But I think the directors like to get a sense of like what if you're not talking at all, like if you have lines,
Oh,
then I
yeah,
get a pretty
yeah.
quick sense of what you feel like. But if you don't have any lines, then I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd like to see what they're like to work with, like just to converse with.
Yeah. I've gotten
Uh,
tapes in where they just sent in like self-tapes where they just sent in the scene work. And I was like, they didn't say who they are or answer the little personality question. I really think that's important for directors to like be like, oh, that person seems cool. I would work with them on set all day. They
Just
seem like a
something.
fun guy, you know?
Absolutely. Okay, so this first scene is, I'm doing this in the wrong order. This is the working scene. An invisible cowboy shot was the direction. So we can see your body movements, moving things around, tightening straps, strapping something on the tow truck. Doesn't have to be too labored. Don't make it look hard. It's cold outside in Chicago, but you're used to it. You're just doing your job. And this is one I think Steve has a little bit of fun with one of the takes for sure. So
Look at that cowboy.
that's a cowboy.
Did you cut the sound out, Steve?
No.
Oh, is it not playing?
It's just so quiet. I
Oh,
can't
hey,
hear anything. Maybe it's just
I probably failed to. Let me do a real quick. This is such a faux
okay.
pas.
Bump up the sound.
Webinar faux pas optimized for video button. There we go.
Oh, there it is.
That's perfect. Very subtle, right, Virginia?
I know,
Yes, very subtle, making sure you know it's cold.
Is it cold?
Like thoughts on that scene? Because I'm sure you saw a million people do that scene.
Right. I think the key moment to that direction was the very last line you said, like, you're just doing your job. You know, to me, that's half the battle on most of the things I'm doing. It's like, just pretend you've done this a million times before. Like, this is something like, I think this guy was a tow truck driver and he was he's hooking a car up to his tow truck. Like it's routine. He does it all the time. There's nothing weird or hard about it or stressful unless I'm trying to really unless the point of it is to show that it's stressful or hard or whatever. But most of the time the stuff is like, just act like it's normal. Please do your job. Don't overperform. Don't really sell it. Like I know what I've asked for, so I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Show me different looks. Like, is he, one second he's bent over or hunched over this, and the next he's looking back at it, or he's taking a step back, or he's tightening a thing and it's really like detailed and up close, or like different looks is what I'm trying to get there.
Totally.
How can they edit that together?
So obviously the second one was Steve was playing the environment or showing us what the environment was with the whole being cold or like and truly we'll see that it's cold because they'll light it in such a way and they might put a little breath, coming out or whatever. The production design will take care of that for us. So I would, given the direction where it says it's cold outside in Chicago, but you're used to it, I would play probably no cold moment at all whatsoever. But that's like a fourth of the direction that's written for that scene. So a lot of actors will probably do more with it than they might need to.
Right.
Super geeky. This is totally something else, Steve, that I would probably throw out there. And I think this doesn't like just apply to self tapes. I think it applies to in the room as well on some levels. But as far as the camera goes, and as far as the audience's experience with stuff, I always used to say in the session room too, side good, front back bad. If you start leaning forward so much, you start giving me the depth and space of the camera, which kind of, especially on a self-tape situation with most people on a phone, which is a wide angle lens, which is just going to really exacerbate that forward back movement. It's going to put me in there with you. And it winds up, you don't break too far to camera on this thing, but it winds up it's almost as if you were auditioning for Steppenwolf and you stuck your thighs up against the table of the auditors and you kind of did the scene with them. And you can see how long my nose gets and everything like that. It's a very, very subtle version of that. But if you're living on the side to side thing, you can take a step back. But if you keep coming forward and backward, it kind of creates that wide angle lens feel, regardless of what your lensing is. If you stay side to side, and I don't want you to go in profile, but if you're sitting side to side here, doing this over there, checking that out, and you don't break this front back thing, it allows me to flatten the image and kind of be a voyeur and look in at your world, which lets me examine you more than be like, Steve, you're doing the cold thing too big. You know what I mean? Or you're doing the work thing too big. So that's just something I would probably take a look at on that. Awesome. Let's do the driving scene, because this is why I picked this one out, because it's like classic, right?
Classic
MOS
driving. I cannot wait.
How do we drive in an
Cannot wait.
Always a disaster. Oh my God.
I did this for you, Virginia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me get my popcorn.
So the direction on this is we're visible driving in a medium shot, eye line just off camera. It's okay if we can't fully see your hands or arms. You can just mime the steering wheel, trying to get some nice quiet moments watching you drive around in the shifting out overcast environment. You turn on the music to something enjoyable and then see someone stranded on the side of the road and you start to pull over. Take your time, nice and subtle. You're just driving and doing your job.
I like that first take, Steve. That's pretty good.
Right?
This one you'll like a lot, I think.
This one's my favorite so far. Like, what road are we on?
I think he's playing the violin or the
cello. Like the cello, it looks like.
Oh my gosh. Now that's too much.
Well, there's a time, this is what I probably actually would have done many years ago. So, because I wanted to show my acting.
Right?
No, you really want to over mime. You want to narrate what's going on. It's a natural instinct. People are like, oh my God, I got to show them that this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she's singing to it now.
Love it.
I'm 43. I found the red Chevy in Ashland. I'll get back to you when I'm done. Bye.
Awesome. Cool. Thoughts on driving in general in commercial auditions?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows you don't do this, right? That's
exactly.
That's not the road you're on. This just one hand on the wheel, at least. Two is probably what I think it's the safety thing. You have to have 2 on the wheel in every commercial, except for these new.
But I always
hands-
tell actors, if I have 2 hands on the wheel, this wheel's freaking huge.
Yeah, it is cute. It
This
is
wheel is really tiny.
Yep.
This wheel is always the right size
It's always the right size.
in an audition.
Exactly.
I'm on
In an
set,
audition, I'm cool with 1 hand on the wheel. I'm cool with it. But I think
I think you have
legally commercials have to have 2 hands on the wheel.
Belt on, 2 hands on the wheel for sure. Yeah.
The 10 and 2, whatever they want. But nobody drives like that. Absolutely fucking nobody drives like that. So it looks weird to do that because it's like, what is happening here?
Right.
Why are your fists in rage in front of me? Like, why are you doing that? So yeah, like a casual look or things like that is fine. And you just are driving in a straight ass line, like just drive straight. If
Right.
maybe there's a turn, that's it. Like don't overturn. Like people are going like
Right.
360s or
Or
whatever.
I've got to do the
360s.
mirror. It's like, oh, I'm driving, so I need stuff to do. So I'm going to fix the mirror. Or Tommy
Mhm.
asks, how often do people shift gears and stuff? It's like, that's all stuff that says, I'm going to show you that I'm driving. I know you're driving because you
Mhm.
wrote it to be driving.
And that's stuff that props will let you just do naturally when that you get there. You'll have all the things to do, and if they need you to touch a thing, they can.
Good question. Would using something as a prop, like maybe a plate or something for a wheel, be too much? I would tend to.
I kind of would probably be distracted at first. I could probably get over it.
Yeah.
Probably get over it, but
But my rule on that is always don't replace something with something that it's not, because I'll be like, why are you holding a plate? Because
Are
I
you
can't
holding
get
a
rid of the plate. Right now. So if I
Yeah,
see
I
something
mean-
imaginary, I'll make it for you. I would definitely create that vision for you if it's mine. So I'd rather go with something that's
I
not
think that's
there.
the safest thing.
But
because
at O'Connor
I
Casting,
might
you
be
guys
able to
actually
go
have a steering wheel set up, right? You have a
we do have a steering wheel. It's a tiny one. It's a baby one.
little tiny baby
But
one.
it is a steering wheel just to give your hand someplace to go, because otherwise it's real
Yeah.
hard for people to just calm that hand down and just
Totally.
steady.
Totally.
Yeah, and like Sean's saying, some people would not be able to look past a weird prop. So just,
And I think another important moment in that last clip was the direction you search some music and you turn on something that you like. And a
Mhm.
lot of actors are probably going to and Steve definitely way overdid that on the one where you're like,
yeah.
what are we looking for there?
Friendliness, warmth, you're not grumpy about anything. It's just a regular day, doing your job and just not being miserable, making sure you're not sitting there with a resting, miserable face. As you probably would if you were just driving around in the cold, just
Right.
looking for stuff. You probably wouldn't be like,
Totally.
but it's a commercial. I need to know that I like this guy. He's a good guy. I need to know instantly that he's a cool guy.
I think actors so often like go on this pursuit for the truth. And I'm always like, there's more than one truth.
Mhm.
And if we look at it as like, there's one truth, we can fall into being like, oh, I turn on music and I like it. Well, a potential option would be turning the music on and being like, woo, awesome. And it doesn't fit the commercial at all. But the opposite of that, what you just did with the tiny little thing and
Yeah.
is also the truth. And then you have to intelligently pick one that's going to fit in this. So, and they both can be wonderfully real, but one is wholly and fully inappropriate for the story. So, right?
Can I make a confession real quick about this?
Yeah. That was your try hard take.
No, right. That's the one I thought was absolutely perfect, Sean. No, this spot was shot November of 20. I know that because I was on set for it. I did extra work on it. It was the first thing I did after quarantine.
I guess.
But everything we're talking about, like the guy who actually was the driver, I mean, everything was subtle. And like
Great
later,
job.
like when he's just like looking at his phone, ordering the gifts.
Yeah.
It was almost as if we were on break and they just put a camera over his shoulder. It was just so natural. It wasn't oh my God, I got to that's too expensive. Oh, this is perfect. She's going to love.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. He was
Yeah, he
really
was.
good. Yeah.
I'm so happy he booked it.
Yeah.
His daughter is my neighbor too. So we were.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
She's great.
Yeah, we had a lot of good people up for that role actually too, and I was real happy he booked it. He was great.
Super duper. what else do we got here? And then Steve, you have a process thing. I want to look at that really quick first too. This was something
what the hell I did for that.
that Steve did that was kind of interesting. He talked through process. So Steve had been playing around in the practice with going over the top on stuff. So this first take, censor if there's children listening.
Oh, yeah,
Drop
sorry.
F-bomb or something like that. But he goes way over the top and actually speaks out loud some of the things that he's thinking, and then goes after a second take where it's just like that stuff shows up, but really subdues it, which I think is an interesting way of going out about things, because sometimes we can take stuff so darn small that it disappears entirely. And talking it through at least gives you that map to make sure that you're hitting the story beats that they need you to work through. All right, let me pop this last one up here. This is, you're on a tablet, shopping. You're swipe some things, you click on one you like, it's the one, you order it, because you're ordering a bike for your daughter.
Fuck. These are awful.
Sorry, can't drink.
Would you love to get this as the audition? Especially from Steve. Steve, what are you sending me?
Keep.
The nodded, keep nodding, keep nodding.
And then keep nodding. The nod of death. I'm like, yes. Oh my gosh. Anybody that's taken class with me knows what I feel about nodding on camera over and over and over.
First of all, your prop work is great. You're not nonstop scrolling. You're not clicking like a crazy person.
Right.
You're not texting someone. You're
Right.
scrolling through shopping options like you do.
And
that's it.
that's the end of that one. So yeah, because we get it. Like you do a few things and we understand. You let us follow you. I think it's nice in that.
Well, I think what you were mentioning earlier that we forget sometimes, the copywriter who's watching this wrote the spot, the director knows that I'm supposed to be looking at something. So I don't have to go, oh, I don't like this. Oh my God, this is fan. And like, that I found something I finally like because I stopped and I typed my credit card security code in and boom, I ordered it. We're done.
And
That's all it has to be.
they're going to show us the phone. They're going to show us a close up on, and they're going to go, give me a tiny smile. You're going to go, after you do that, and then they're going to show us push purchase. Like they're going to tell a lot of
They'll
stories.
see the little bike on the
Right.
thing and me hitting buy or whatever. Yeah.
So sorry, we're flying along here. It's almost 6:45. So I'm gonna take some questions because there's so much that we could talk about MOS things. I just wanted to touch on some of the stuff a little bit, kind of start the conversation.
And can I give like 10 seconds real quick? Like
Yeah, totally.
doing all this stuff the last month or two, like some of that when I found, geez, if I do it now, when I practice, I do things wrong on purpose. I used to always try to like get it right. I'm going to practice. Everyone's going to be perfect. But I find, I don't really learn when I do that. So if I do a couple, like we were talking the other day about, what's his name? Christopher Walken. You do the
Right.
first take, the way everyone's going to do it, the way that your first instinct, and then you never do it that way again.
Yeah.
So you kind of blowing out of the water and like, okay, well, I know how bad that felt. So I'm not going to repeat that. And I'm just going to do what I need to do. And that seems to help them too.
And it can be a creative principle and a great way of exploration. I think everybody's always looking for the gold, so they're like attracted to gold to find like what is the great thing out there that they need to uncover. But I think sometimes pushing away from where you've been or what you don't want, and leaving out there unknown, so that you can go and truly explore without forcing yourself down some predetermined pathway. But pushing away from something, I think, is like, if you have nothing to push away from and nothing to go to, then you can just like flounder in space and not get anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a decent process to take a look at. So there's a question. Can we speak a little to how actors encounter these sorts of submissions? Are they typically sent through one's agents? Yeah, these would be commercial auditions that would go through talent agents. Yeah. And Leah just answered that for us already on the chat. Thank you, Leah. Good to see you out there. Why aren't you on the practice link instead of the YouTube link right now? You can log in. Does anybody else have any questions out there in the general public of any situations that you've run into in any of these auditions where you're like, what the heck was I supposed to do there? What was I supposed to do on this one? And if people are in the practice that have questions, we'll, after we're done with the YouTube thing, we'll open this up and then we'll do some work and let you ask questions directly to Virginia. I just don't have the ability to do that through the YouTube thing. And I don't have enough seats to bring all the YouTube people in. So what about those auditions when we're just doing expressions? Like, it's just like me in a close-up and you're just talking me through some different expressions. I remember some auditions where they're just like, all right, give me a sad face.
Yeah.
Better. Now you're really bummed out. And now you're feeling that you're like, oh my gosh, what can we expect on that stuff?
Oh man, it's been a while since I've done those. Usually we'll do those with children, but every once
Right.
every once in a while someone needs to see that and they're just like, let me just see some expressions.
Yeah.
To me, it's like I kind of like the transition period between whatever emotions I'm giving you. Like I may put you back to neutral and then have you go into something. I like to see how you grow into it, because there's levels of sadness, or there's levels of surprise, or there's levels of thinking about something, whatever it is. So I kind of like to live in the transitions there. Because I think probably wherever you end up is probably too much or too big. But how you get there might be the key moment. It's like the discovery moment. Like, when do you discover the surprise? You know, after you've discovered it, you're really still surprised and you're doing the big surprise stuff. But the moment you discover the surprise and it hits you, like that's the key moment for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, like kind of just seeing, like, can you convey stuff subtly? Usually I'm in a tight shot when I'm doing that. And the closer I am to you, the smaller you should be. You know, if I'm in this framing, like I'm going to catch every little thing you do. So treat it like a film audition where it can be small and subtle. I'm not, you know, if it was a full body shot, I wouldn't see your face doing anything. That's probably how small you need to be.
Yeah.
For those kind of things.
So Meg has a question that I think is kind of the crux of it all. The most difficult thing for all of us actors to make some good choices. And the question is worded thus: if we do an MOS take that's fairly natural or neutral/real, what draws you to one person's take over someone else's equally natural take? Which is that's the thought that goes through an actor's mind. So they're like, why in the hell would they choose me over somebody else? Then does it just come down to look? I'm not going to rely on that. I'm going to push it a little bit more to try to get them to be interested in me. And I'm putting words into Meg's question that might not belong there, but I think that's how us actors tend to shoot ourselves in the foot. So talk to what draws you when you watch a fairly neutral or natural or real take.
And that's why we end up driving the car like this, because we want to be remembered.
How can an actor rely on that? That's enough, that's interesting enough, that's where the interest is going to be drawn to?
Well, I'm going to be straight with everybody. In the commercial world, a lot of it depends on what you look like and what they're, I mean, this marketing and commercials, you know, commercials is marketing. So it could a lot depend on what you look like and getting everybody who has to approve shit to agree to like you over somebody else. But being subtle and natural and real and conveying the feelings that I want to feel when I watch you, that will at least get you a callback, right? Yeah. You just got to get the callback. And then after the callback, you know, when you're in there with the director, you're listening to the director and you're making the changes and adjusting the way they want. That's all you can do. Everything else after that's out of your hands. Like, then it's going to come down to who matches the dad that I need, who is the lead of the spot, who looks more like this daughter, who I need to pair and is still a good actress. Like, directors are like, in a callback, they're like, I can work with these 3 people. I wouldn't care who I get out of these 3 people. And then somebody higher up is making the decision. Yeah. Like a creative or the client themselves, you know, Mr. and Mrs. McDonald's is deciding who's going to book their stuff because it's their shit and that they get to pick it. Yeah. So what if they're all nice and natural and subtle, then great. They have too many choices and the director's going to come back to Chicago market to cast their next spot, because there's so many great talent there and everybody's good and directable.
Yeah. And I don't know how the numbers pan out, but I would, and these might be way skewed, but I always say exactly that. Let's say you have 100 people audition for something, since percentages are always fun to make up. And
right. Numbers.
let's say you have 100 people audition for something. The people that get called back are the people that are real and natural. So at the end of the day, absolutely, it's totally based on look. But you're not in the pool of people that they're choosing based on look until you get called back. So I would say that they probably knock out 60% of the people that aren't quite really real and natural, because they're trying to book it based upon how interesting their acting is, because they don't accept themselves as interesting already. And I always say, like, do you really kid yourself? Do you think that you could sit at Starbucks and nobody would ever want to people watch you because you're not interesting? You're interesting. No matter who you are out there, there's people that would people watch you and just see what you are like when you move about your day. So the first step is, if we try to push ourselves away from, accepting that and try to be more interesting, then you're out. Then you're not in the look pile. And then out of that 40%, yeah. And then the next thing is not being real and natural, because you got there with the callback, is, can the director collaborate with you? Or does the director want to collaborate with you? Then you're in a very smaller pool, but then it's still based on look. But you got to be in the last pool to be based on look. So it really winds up in proof becoming a very skill-oriented thing.
Yeah, it's performance and options.
Yeah.
Pretty much up front. And then after that, it'll come down to looks or something like that. Something stupid that you can't control.
Cool. I promise you, everybody in the practice, we're going to get to you in a second. I just want to wrap this up on the YouTube thing with just a few questions. And these will probably be, everybody always has the business questions instead of the acting questions. But let's throw this out there, and you can do quick answers if you want. Does O'Connor reach out to their go-to agencies, or do you look for several different agencies? Do you guys work with everybody, or just a select few?
I work with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Is there a best agent in town?
No, there's not a best agent in town. Your agent is good. If they're submitting you and I'm calling you in, your agent is good. If I'm not calling you in and you're really great, you got to convince your agent that you're really great. So tell them, please push me. I'm really good at copy. And they'll be like, I don't know you. Are you good at copy? How do I know? And then, talk to them, talk to their agent, tell your agent to push you. But your agents are doing a lot of work. So
cool. Is there a best color backdrop to have?
No, I don't care. No.
Cool. If it's been a while since we've been into O'Connor, how should we try to get back in? What do we got to do to shake you all down?
I mean, don't fuck up when you're in my room, for sure. Like, be prepared and be cool and do cool stuff with me when I'm in the room with you. And I will remember that.
Asking this is a good actor. They've definitely done nothing.
Exactly. I don't know how to get you in the room, and if you're not in the room, again.
Do people reach out to you guys? Do people send postcards or anything like that?
You absolutely can. On my website, on O'Connor Casting's website, we have an actor contact page where if you tell me you have a new agent or you're going to be in a show, you can reach out and tell us that. And we do go through that and kind of review everything.
Do you guys look at, like, if people send you a clip of, like, hey, I was in this show, or hey, I was in this, you guys go see shows and everything like that? Yeah.
For sure. Make sure you don't send a bad clip.
Right.
Don't invite me to the play that sucks.
Anything else? I don't know. There's so many questions. It's so hard to keep track of these things. How much should we understand about the company brand when making choices during an MOS audition?
That's actually a good thing to ask, because there could be campaigns out there already that exist. Like, if let's say Progressive, we're calling you in for one of the people who become their parents, homeowners who are becoming their parents. Like, if you haven't, I've had people walk in my room and I'm like, you've seen this, you know what's going on? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, get out and go watch them. Like, go hang out and watch all of them, if you can watch all of them, because I'm explaining to people, like, Dr. Rick is there to help you. You listen to Dr. Rick. You don't argue with Dr. Rick. You take his advice and you go, oh, every one of those commercials, they're doing a thing and then he stops them and they're like learning. Oh, okay. And like, there's no argument. There's no fight. Like, you do have to, like, know stuff. You do have to know if that brand is bananas, cuckoo, crazy acting, or is it like real comedy, like gold stuff? Like, is it top notch? And, you know, what if there's a director available and you can look up that director, go look up their stuff too, to see like, what are they like? What is their stuff like?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
And you should just watch Dr. Rick commercials because
I mean, they're my favorite commercials. They're getting a little stretchy right now, but like they had me at submarine books and throw pillows.
I love it. All right, we got to wrap up the YouTube. Thanks for being here with us, everybody. We're going to try to do another one of these sometime soon. Check us out at the Green Room. All right, it's thegreenroomstudio.tv, and keep in touch. We hope to see you guys all soon.
Yay.
Yay.
All right, now I'm going to unspotlight people. So we're